I'm Deborah and Albert, and I'm the founder of Young Women Code. And I am happy to be here and introduce to you something that is very special to us, Tech Talks by Heart. If this is your first time joining us, let me tell you, you're in the right place. This is where women in tech come together, not just to listen, but to speak, to share, to learn, and to inspire. At Young Women Code, we believe in action. We are not just talking about getting more women into tech. We want to make it happen, and we are making it happen through mentorship, resources, sponsorships, and most importantly, community, because no woman should have to navigate this industry alone. We launched Tech Talks by Heart to spark real, raw, and candid conversations led by women for women. We started in Nigeria, we took it to Ghana, and today we're where? We're in South Africa, a country full of innovation, talent, and women who are shaping the future of tech in ways the world cannot ignore. And that is exactly why our theme today is Rise Up Tech Women, women leading South Africa's tech future. Because we're not just participants in the industry, we are leaders. And we have some incredible leaders with us today. We have the CEO and founder of Girl Code. We have a partner and technology co-lead at Microsoft and the CEO of CyberSec. These are women that are leading the tech industry in South Africa. And these women, they are proof that South Africa's tech industry is ours to shape. But today is more than just them. It's about you. It's about the girl that's watching this video and wondering where her place in tech is. It's about each and every one of us rising together, leading together, and making sure no door remains closed for the next generation of women. So I ask you, are you ready to rise? Are you ready to lead? Welcome to Tech Talks by Heart South Africa. Let your journey begin.
And welcome to Tech Talks by Her South Africa. My name is Elizabeth. I am a business analyst and founder of Medical Tourism Africa. I'm honored to be your moderator tonight, and I will be co-moderating with Chelsea Goliath. Are you there?
I'm Chelsea. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you. I'm Chelsea. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm so excited to be co-moderating this panel, and I'm really excited about the insight that we're going to be able to share and hear from the wonderful women that we have lined up for you.
Thank you, Chelsea, for introducing yourself. Today, we will be moderating an important discussion on Rise Up Tech Women, women leading South Africa's tech future. We're thrilled to have all of you join us for this virtual event as we explore the journeys, challenges, opportunities that women in tech are navigating in South Africa. So let's start. Technology is shaping every aspect of our lives. And yet, despite the immense talent and capability amongst women, we still see gaps in representation, leadership, and innovation in the tech space. Tonight, we'll hear from phenomenal women who are leading the charge in South Africa's tech industry. Women who are not only breaking barriers, but are also paving the way for the next generation of female leaders in technology. A special thank you to Young Women Code for organizing this vital conversation and for their commitment to empowering women in the technological sector. Their work is instrumental in ensuring that young women have skills, opportunities, and networks to thrive in this industry. Before we dive in, a quick reminder, this event is being streamed live on YouTube. We encourage you to participate in the discussion, drop your thoughts and questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to include them in our audience Q&A later. Chelsea, anything I left?
Please also don't to use the hashtags. I've posted the comment for you in the comment section, so you will know exactly which hashtags we'll be using. Also, don't forget to share your engagement, excitement in the comment section. Just build up the hype, especially on social media. That will really, really help spread the message even further. So yeah, we're really excited to kick this off.
We will now be introducing our line of speakers today, each with a unique story and perspective on the tech industry. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Doreen Mokoena. Doreen Mokoena is a visionary leader and the founder and CEO of CyberSec Clinic, one of South Africa's most influential cybersecurity firms. Since its establishment in 2020, CyberSec Clinic has tackled critical security challenges in industries vital to the nation's economy, particularly in mining. Driven by a deep commitment to digital inclusion and cybersecurity excellence, Doreen has positioned the firm as a trusted partner for organizations navigating complex digital transformations. Her expertise in regulatory compliance, data privacy, and IT governance has earned CyberSec Clinic numerous accolades, including Entrepreneurship Education of the Year and Digital Transformation Partner of the Year in 2022. Doreen's contribution to internet governance, particularly her focus on the domain name system DNS, highlights her broader mission to ensure a resilient and inclusive global internet. Recognizing the DNS as the backbone of the internet, Doreen has championed its protection and efficient management as a cornerstone of cybersecurity and data sovereignty. She has represented South Africa at global forums, including ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, where she has actively contributed to policies that promote secure, transparent, and inclusive internet practices. As a passionate advocate for diversity in technology, Doreen has prioritized empowering women in DNS and internet governance. She has spearheaded initiatives to create pathways for women to participate in this critical sector, recognizing that diverse voices are essential for equitable digital policies. Her establishment of Women in Cybersecurity in Lesotho in 2024 extended this mission, offering mentorship, training, and networking opportunities to women in cybersecurity and DNS-related fields.
Leadership extends to national cybersecurity resilience and digital transformation initiatives. She's overseen high-impact projects involving national cybersecurity strategies, IT modernization, and full-scale automation frameworks. Doreen is also deeply engaged in cybersecurity education and workforce development. She's collaborated with South African universities to revise and strengthen cybersecurity qualifications, ensuring alignment with industry needs and global standards. Her dedication to advancing digital education has earned her a nomination for honorary doctorate in leadership and cybersecurity. Her unwavering focus on internet governance, the protection of DNS systems, and inclusive cybersecurity policies underscore her belief that a secure and equitable internet is essential for economic growth and social development. As CyberSec Clinic expands its footprint, her leadership continues to inspire confidence, shaping the future of Africa's digital economy while advancing global cybersecurity standards.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. The next speaker is Zandile Mkhwanazi. Zandile is a trailblazing entrepreneur and advocate for women in tech. As the founder and CEO of Girl Code, a leading organization empowering women through technology, she has impacted the lives of over 80,000 girls and women. With a proven track record of success in both education and entrepreneurship, Zandile is a driving force in the South African tech ecosystem. Her leadership and vision have earned her recognition as a leading authority on women in tech, including being named one of Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans, Santam Women of the Future Social Entrepreneur of the Year, Digital Women winner at the GovTech 23, Telcom Top 10 Phenomenal Women 23, and Sunday World Heroic Women 24. Zandele is committed to creating a more inclusive and equitable future for girls and women in tech. Over to you, Chelsea, for the last speaker.
Speaker will be Lillian Serobatse. So the last speaker will be Lillian Serobatse. Lillian is a dynamic mother, adventurous, sports enthusiast, and technology evangelist with a wealth of experience in the IT sector. Her career encompasses roles in technical consulting, marketing, and audience management, technical sales, sales management, channel, and partner strategy leadership. Currently, she leads a team of cloud solution architects and technology strategists driving the growth of Microsoft offerings through partner organizations. Lillian's academic background includes a computer science degree from UNISA and an MBA from the University of the Witwatersrand. We'll pass it over to Elizabeth to introduce the first speaker.
So, welcome, ladies. We're excited to hear from you. To start with our panel discussions, we would like each of you to briefly share your journey in tech. We will start with Doreen Mukwena. And the question, which also applies to all of the speakers, is as women leading South Africa's tech future, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for women in the industry today? And how can we ensure more women step into leadership roles?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doreen Mukwena. I'm the founder and CEO of RiseUp Clinic. I'm from South Africa, born and bred in SA. It's such a beautiful rainbow nation. And more than anything for me, I think what democracy, came with as a South African woman is the freedom to enter tech spaces without any judgments, without anything holding me back. Because back in the days, we're not. Just a second. My son is here. Sorry. Being in tech means exactly that. You have to, you need to do your talks, and you also need to remember that there's a little boy who's actually waiting for you. But more than anything, I've been in the tech space for the past 14 years. It's been a very accelerating moment for me. I've built businesses, I've sold businesses, we've employed more than 50 people, and, we've mentored women in tech as well to enter the tech spaces. So for me, it's been a very big and a beautiful journey. It's been very hard. One thing about tech, I always say, in fact, one thing about entrepreneurship, the highs are always high and the lows are equally very low. So as a woman in tech, you also need to know how to do your businesses. So from finance to taxation, to just general business modular, and making sure that everything within your line of business is structured in terms of regulations, in terms of compliance. So entrepreneurship and tech goes hand in hand, and I think that we can be as technical and we can be as compliant as we can be, but more than anything, we do need that business acumen. And I do believe that that is what's holding most people back from actually entering tech spaces. And the ability to innovate, to innovate with just you can think of a system right now and you can build it. The tagline at RiseUp Clinic is we can build anything you can imagine. That's the power of technology. It's giving you the leverage to actually enter into spaces and innovate and deploy and take your businesses elsewhere globally. So for me as a woman in tech, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I'm very happy where I am.
Thank you very much, Doreen. And just to hold on this question, and also for the other speakers, I think let's just take you back a bit. Do you want to share with us your journey? What has inspired you to get into the tech industry?
The funny thing, the lady who inspired me to actually get into tech, her name is also Doreen. That's the funniest thing. But her name is Doreen Martin from ICANN and United Nations. She's been a very big player within the internet governance landscape globally. And her journey is very inspirational to me because I think she's like 60 years this year, and she's very strong, and she's still a president of the UN. She's still speaking internet governance. So that's what inspired me. So I remember after matric, I wanted to get into medical school, Medunsa. I wanted to study forensic pathology. And I had issues back then. You know, my mom was a factory worker, and there was just a lot of us who needed to go to university. So I took a gap year. And as I was taking the gap year, I used to love watching Criminal Minds. It's a series, it's an American series about criminals. So I loved watching it. There was a lady there, her name is Penelope Garcia. She is a techie of note. So whenever I used to watch Criminal Minds, she used to amaze me. Her skill, her coding skills, in as much as that was TV, but I just brought it to real life application, and I was like, she's doing so amazing, and she's a woman. I can also do that. Then I went and the following year I registered for a course in policing science, and I graduated. And then one of my modules was actually forensic investigations. So I studied forensic, and and then I got introduced into digital forensics, and I studied at Northwest University. As I was doing digital forensics, the love for technology, for forensics, for SOC, for looking at things, the inquisitives in me just was born, and that's how I got into tech. Fast forward, I became a director of internet governance for South Africa, where I was actually looking at internet governance, domain name systems, DNS, as the backbone of the internet. And from there on, my journey just skyrocketed. It's been amazing ever since, and up until where I am today.
And just to
So
confirm, okay, just to confirm, what campus of Northwest University did you attend?
I was in Potchefstroom.
Okay,
Yes.
I
I was
started
in
my
Potch.
degree in Potchefstroom before I
Yeah,
finished up in the Netherlands. So interesting, Booker.
yeah. Your face looks familiar. I
Nice.
was like, why is she a mascot at school or not?
Yes, yes. And we had to learn in Afrikaans.
Yeah,
Interesting story.
big up to that.
Small world, small world. But
Yeah.
thank you, Doreen, for sharing your journey. We'll come back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doreen. Next speaker we'd like to call upon is Zandile Mkwanadzi. And welcome, Zandile.
Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
We're so excited to have you. So we are very interested and curious about you sharing your tech journey with us and how you became a trailblazer in what is one of the most renowned organizations in South Africa for girls and women in STEM. So yeah, just talk us through that journey and kind of just give us a taste of what it is to live inside your mind.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think I'll also start just after matric, or during matric, right? So I actually didn't know what I want to study. I just went to my teacher and said, "What should I study?" I think it also talks to like a lot of young people's journey, where without a lot of career guidance, you kind of end up wherever you end up. So at the time, my teacher told me to go study actuarial science because I was good at maths. I loved maths. I did IT as well. And apparently, actuarial science pays a lot of money. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a good career for me. So I went to Wits University. I applied for actuarial science. I got accepted. But when it was time to actually enroll, they told us that they can only accept a certain number of students. And even though a lot of us qualified, they basically had to do a process of elimination in terms of like who qualified the most, right? Who got 100 and then 99. And then if you were at 90, it's like, oh, sorry, there's other people that got like 91 and above. So I was one of those that was cut, and I was encouraged to go study computational and applied mathematics because it's quite sort of adjacent to actuarial science, and second year I would then jump on. But I found that I loved what we were doing at computational and applied maths. We had exposure to a lot of different industries. I mean, I did astronomy, I did optimization, I did a bit of the computer science modules. So I really got exposure to quite a lot, and I figured that this will give me the best sort of foundation for whatever career I want to go into. And I still didn't know at that time. Up until my master's, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to study until I'm a doctor or something, and then I'll figure it out. But during my master's, I had an opportunity to be part of an internship program, and the internship was basically for software development, and we were building software for companies. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, you can write lines of code on a computer, and it can translate to a real product that solves real problems. So I completely fell in love with that, and I decided this is what I want to do. I applied for, sort of graduate programs, and got accepted into a tech startup where I realized that, okay, there's quite a lot to the space, but more than anything, we didn't have a lot of women. And I think that's where it hit me that, okay, this is like male dominated. There's a lot of male. There's a lot of yeah, and not a lot of women that are in the space, and that also kind of sparked the inspiration to start Go Code. But yeah, that's been my journey until starting Go Code in 2014. And honestly, it was purely by a coincidence that I ended up in the tech space. It's not something that I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I didn't have role models that I could look up to and say, oh, okay, she's doing it. And so yeah, it was by coincidence and accident, but I love it now that I'm in the space, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for young girls and women, which is something that I'm really passionate about.
I love that. It reminds me of the saying that, you always go after your passion, but your purpose will always find you. So it's crazy that your purpose found you, and in doing so, you've let other people find their purpose. Like from one Vitsi to another, I can definitely say I know what you mean. Like it is very male dominated still in 2025. Being one of the only females in my robotics class is insane. And like you're pivoting and you're trying to pioneer in spaces like this. And I will say that fortunately for me, Girl Code was one of the first organizations actually that inspired me to even pivot into this field. So eternally grateful for that and
Oh,
everything that you do. So thank you so much for inspiring the rest of us.
thank you. Thank you so much.
The last speaker, well, the third speaker, not last, is Lilian Sarabatse. It's nice to have you here. And just as a way of you introducing yourself, I mean, we would love for you to share your journey, to tell us what has inspired you to enter this field and what has been the most defining moment in your career so far. Delay. And this question is for you. We are going into the panel discussion proper now. Possibly we would have Lillian back and she'll continue with her set of questions by introducing herself with her journey. Zandile, as women leading South Africa's tech future, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for women in the industry today? And how can we ensure more women step into leadership roles?
Yeah, thank you for that, Elizabeth. So I think something that's very topical right now is AI, right? So everybody's talking about AI. AI can accelerate your career, your entrepreneurship journey. And I think the important thing now is that how do you upskill yourself, right? It's not enough to just read some sort of tweets or whatever, and think that, oh, okay, I understand AI. I think it's the biggest opportunity. So for me, I'm encouraging young people, especially young women, to start doing courses. The brilliant thing is that we don't have a lot of AI experts, especially in South Africa, especially in the continent, especially women. So this is like a leveling field where you now have an opportunity to actually, be an innovator in the space, to be a specialist in the space. and really set yourself apart from everybody else and what people are doing. And that goes into like, how do you then get into leadership roles? People give, promote or like give people leadership roles because they are knowledgeable, because it's people that have shown that I can take initiative, and that's a key thing. You have to show up for yourself and for your future. Like no one else can do it for you. So when you're hearing things are happening in the industry, you can't just sit back and sort of let the wave pass you by. This is like our time now as young people. And just to be, I think Lillian maybe also jump in on this, but Microsoft just released a AI skills passport, which is a completely free to do AI training course. I've already started myself, right? So one of the things about also being in the role that I'm in is that I also need to understand what's happening in the industry. I need to keep current. I need to make sure that I'm following up, I'm reading, I'm learning, and I'm upskilling. So we can't really underplay the role of upskilling yourself. So that's number one. And then finding community. I think if you want to grow as a person, if you want to grow your skills, which will better position you for leadership roles, so soft skills like communication, teamwork, then you need to find community and you need to participate in community, right? So Young Women Code, Girl Code, She Code Africa, there's so many of these communities for women that you can join. And by the way, also, you don't have to join just one community. You can be part of them all. And more than just joining, it's about participating. It's about showing up for yourself. It's about showcasing your skill set. Because people see you when you show up. People see what you're capable of. People will acknowledge that and will give you recognition. So yeah, for me, I think that's the key thing. And I've had young women show up in my organization, and those women have been promoted. I've actively, when I walk into rooms, I'm like, oh yeah, I actually know someone who would be perfect for this, right? So you don't know what rooms and spaces people walk into. So you need to show up all the time authentically, but make sure that you're up to date, that you're knowledgeable, and you're continuously upskilling. I think that's critical more than anything. Technology is like moving so fast. Things are changing so fast. If you are spending your nights watching Netflix and not like learning, then it's going to pass you by. So I think yeah, that's what I would say needs to happen, and what the opportunities are for young people, especially young women, to be part of the conversation now. So you have to upskill yourself.
You need to possibly get into some leadership roles, we women need to assist each other because it's very male dominated. So what would you say about women supporting women? And I'm saying this because I've had groups we've formed as women supporting women, but it never, it just never ends. Or it ends in
Yeah.
stories that touches the heart. So what would you say about that kind of conversation, and are women really assisting each other, to climb the corporate ladder or leadership ladder?
Yeah, so this is like also one of those topics that can kind of go both ways. And let me start with a panel discussion I was once sort of listening to. And one of the women there, which can be quite controversial, right? What she is about, what she said. And it's basically that she's the first in her family to get into corporate and to climb the corporate ladder, right? And she's still trying to climb. She's still trying to figure herself out and find out sort of how to get to where she wants to get to. And in all honesty, she's like, I don't have time to sort of help anybody else on my journey. We always like saying to women, lift as you rise. And she's like, I don't have capacity to lift as I rise. I only have capacity to rise because there is so much already in the rising, in the being the first, especially in male dominated spaces. And of course, all of us in the audience were like, oh wow, okay. We don't expect sort of women especially to say no, I'm going to look out for myself and nobody else. And in one way it can be looked at as being selfish, and kind of like, not being full woman. But also, we have to take into consideration the different challenges and communities we come from, and the like already have the burden of being the first and trying to get to the top. And now everybody's saying to you, while you're doing it, make sure that you're bringing everybody else with you. So I kind of understood where she was coming from. But of course, on my side, I'm like always finding, and I believe that you can try and find capacity to bring others with you. The only way things will change, and to prevent you being the first and the only, and then the next woman being the first and the only, is by doing it together and by lifting as you rise. It's not easy. As women, like, there's a lot of pressure and burdens put upon us by society in our homes. So I definitely understand not having capacity to be also helping other people and other women rise while you're on your journey still. But I think it's just like, there's a thing where every sort of generation has a burden to bear, or like they struggle that they need to fight and figure out. And I think this is our struggle. Like, we are now in positions where we are in certain rooms where our predecessors perhaps never in those rooms. And it's up to us to make sure that we don't leave those rooms how we found them. Like, I don't walk out and say, yeah, I was the only one, and I'm still the only one. You need to make space for others, because then we can all grow. I think when you have a growth mindset and you're not thinking that, okay, this is limited, it can only accommodate me and only me, then for me it's the wrong mentality. So I definitely think that yes, we need to give women grace, those that don't feel like they can lift as they rise. But above all, like, I feel like we all can do something to help somebody. It's a lot. And I'll take it home, I'll make it personal. For me, a lot of people reach out to me a lot, and they sort of want my advice, want me to help them start something similar to Go Code. And I get it. Like, they obviously, like, resonate with my journey and need, to kind of I'm not like, oh, you must figure it out yourself, because I figured it out. But at the same time, it can also be a lot on me, because at the same time, like, but I'm still doing this. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I've also had to find ways to be like, okay, let me have coffee with you. Let it be structured. Let me understand what exactly you need help with, so that I can come, show up, be prepared, be able to help you, as opposed to coming and feeling like I wasted an hour of my time. So I think it's a give and take thing, when we're expecting other people to help us, and also when we are able to help other people. It needs to be in a way that it doesn't feel like it's now taking away from sort of the energy that you need to be doing what you need to be doing. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those controversial things, and I'm quite keen to hear what other women, those that are listening, like, what their thought process is around this, and the panelists. But for me, it's like, let's find time to help each other. If you can't do it one on one of the things I'm now doing is trying to document my journey, on social media, on TikTok, so that I can't sit with you one on one, but some of the questions you have, I can answer them, on a on a platform, and things like this, where you're able to ask questions that other people also have, and I can answer them for everybody at the same time. So yeah, I think there's ways to do it where we can all support each other and make sure that we get to where we want to get to. And like, we leave the thing of I'm the only or I'm the first. That must be a thing of the past.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zan. Um, we will bring back Lillian. I think Lillian is back online. Lillian, could you continue with your story if you're there?
I am here. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Apologies for the disruption. So I don't know how much you heard, but I had quite a bit of a monologue, but I'll start from the beginning again. So as I mentioned, I got into technology quite by chance back in the late 90s. And I grew up in underserved communities, and our schooling at the time was as basic as it gets. We did not have career guidance at all. And we didn't have many examples of adults around us in professional careers. So the only options that we were aware of at the time was you either wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, a teacher. We also discovered a lawyer at some point. So it was slim picking. So naturally, I wanted to be a doctor when I grew up, as did most people. But due to financial challenges, I couldn't access tertiary education straight after high school. And as I was looking around for opportunities, I was introduced to a learnership opportunity at a multinational tech company called Lotus. I don't know how many of you will still remember Lotus, but they were eventually bought by IBM. And this opportunity was to learn and gain technologies, technical skills, and hopefully get employed by a local partner company and start working in the information technology sector. I knew absolutely nothing about any of this then. I'd never even touched a computer. But yeah, I was going to give it a shot. I passed all the interviews and the tests, and I got accepted into the year-long program. It was tough and interesting, but I made a commitment to make it work, whatever this was. I really didn't have an option. And so I did. I completed the program successfully, and I got employed at a small company, and we were specializing in Lotus Notes implementations. So at 19 years old, I was placed in my first ever customer as a technology consultant. So I started as a systems administrator and support technician. So I was right in the server room doing all of the hard grind, looking after these big machines. I started to enjoy it. I really started to love this work and enjoy it. And I was learning and growing. My skills were elevating daily. And I kept my sword sharp. I made sure I got all the technical certifications related to my work. And at the same time, I enrolled in a BSc computer science degree with UNISA. So I studied part-time while I was working so that I could formalize my skills. I did this for 5 years. It was wonderful. The time came, I knew it was time for a change. I saw an opportunity at Microsoft and I decided to go for it. It was a brave move at the time because I knew nothing about Microsoft technology. So I was going to start from the beginning again. I had no idea about the job I interviewed for, but I was keen to learn. Unfortunately, I got employed. I got the role purely for my potential, I believe. The risk paid off. I fit right in and my career took off. And as they say, the rest has been history. Absolutely loved it. So through the 25 odd years of my career in this industry, I have had the opportunity and exposure to be at the bleeding edge of technology all the time, access to resources and people and places that have really, really grown me as a person. And I've been able to develop balanced experiences across technical, marketing, sales, channel, business leadership. All these streams I've been able to cover. And this journey has not only enabled me to grow professionally, but to also reach for my own dreams and aspirations. And I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Sharing. Can
Thank
you
you,
hear me?
Elizabeth.
What
Yes,
a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing, Lillian.
Sure.
And straight to your question, the glitch sort of just, push things around. So
Sure.
your first question is, as women leading South Africa's tech future, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for women in the industry today?
Yeah.
And how can we ensure more women step into leadership roles?
Yeah. I'll answer it in two ways. I think the first way is, the tech industry itself is ever evolving and there's continuous transformation. And this is impacting the way that we work and we live every day. This innovation brings with it endless opportunities, as new capabilities and roles become unlocked. For one, the emergence of the cloud technologies in recent years, and even more recently, the AI boom has really democratized access to technology and innovation opportunities. A couple of years ago, no one knew that prompt engineering would be the latest and hottest skill that people need to have in a role that somebody can play, a new opportunity that's open to us to access. So I think what's important, and I think I heard Zandile mention this a little bit as well, is at a personal level, being intentional about accessing the resources and people who are available to you and continuously staying abreast of developments in the sector is critical, not only in building and maintaining your credibility, but for your relevance as well. So you ready yourself for opportunities as they become available. And the only way to sustain that is to constantly be open to learning. The learning does not stop in this phase. You can't be satisfied that you've achieved something and that's what you're going to do for a long time. It just doesn't work like that. So it's crucially important for us to always be motivated and intentional to stay abreast of what's going on and keeping our skills up to date and relevant. And secondly, while we are not where we should be yet, but over the last few years, we've seen a marginal rise in women representation in the industry, and particularly in leadership roles in South Africa. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I think worldwide, women leadership in technology is sitting at about 15%, but in South Africa, it's sitting at about 25%. So this is growing. And I think for a long time, we were stuck at like 12%. So there is definitely a positive move towards incorporating, including more women in leadership in these roles. There is still, however, an opportunity to accelerate this. I think for me, it goes beyond representation in terms of numbers. So it no longer matters how many women or how many allies we have in the space that can enable others, but it's about how do we make that representation matter, right? So how do we leverage those who have made it, those who are allies, and enable those people to open doors to more women and enable more women to thrive and grow in their tech careers? So it's how do we together in a collaborative way find ways to scale out the efforts of all the various individuals across the different countries in driving impact in this way. So I feel like a balance of these two areas is what we will definitely need to have in place in order to move the needle forward.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Thank you. Thanks for the insight. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lillian. So I just want to pose a question to Doreen, if Doreen is available. So cybersecurity happens to be a very critical part of South Africa's digital future, but women are very underrepresented in that field specifically. So as a leader in the space, what challenges have you faced when building your career? And also, what steps do you suggest taking to ensure that more women are able to take up leadership roles in cybersecurity?
Thank you for that, Chelsea. And welcome to Lillian and Zandile. Hi. We work together quite often. So to answer your question, to begin with, I think companies and companies from different stakeholders, from society, from private society, government, academia, the research community, they need to have policies which are very inclusive to women. They need to be very accommodative. I always say that back then when I used to write code, I used to say, when I'm in my periods do not impede on me writing code. I'm not gonna have any issues. It's not as if like my script is not gonna run or I'm not gonna be able to deploy because it's that time of the month. We need to get to a point whereby we are able to separate our gender to what we do. Because always saying women in tech, women in STEM, women in this, I feel like we are forcing the narrative to be accepted. Yes, I'm a woman, but I'm also a very qualified woman. My merit speaks to me. It speaks to what I can do. So if we have companies that build policies which are very inclusive to women, and the inclusion is actually from a very young age, that women can actually deliver products. If you can look at the people that went to space, look at the women that went to NASA, look at all the actual sciences, are actually women. So if we need to start by policy making, we need to be very inclusive, we need to be adaptive, we need to embrace innovations that are brought by women. We shouldn't mask technology and innovation and say it's from this company. We should actually say this is from this company, but it was actually developed, designed, and brought to life by a woman who's in tech, who's inspiring other women. My challenges in the space as a woman was, most of my colleagues asking me, so which team do you play for? Is it the offensive security or the defensive security? So where can you place you? Oh, okay, you look this specific way. You don't look like you can get down to technical. And it turns out that yes, I might wear a wig, I might put on a lipstick, I might have eyelashes, but I can perform as much as my male counterparts. So for me, the woman narrative and gender stereotypes has been a headache in my space for the past 15 years, especially within the domain name systems, within DNS, because it's highly technical. DNS systems are the backbone of the internet. So you need to be strongly technical. You need to understand, all the IPv. You need to understand what happens within DNS. And as a women showing up and saying this is what we need to do to circumvent all the problems that we had within the space, people looked at me like, is she taking chances? Does she know what she's talking about? Where is she learning all of these things from? So I feel like, having a all a woman force within tech, like what Zandile is doing, it's quite amazing. I mean, like I look at her self compliment, I look at her board, it's all women. This shows us that women can actually, break through all these main dominated areas, and we can build technology, we can innovate, we can go to NASA, we can do quantum physics, we can look at advanced connectivity. So, as a woman in tech, sometimes it can get very difficult. But I always say that when the challenges come on you, especially because of your gender, you need to make sure that you are able to back up what you can do. You need to have merit. Being a woman does not mean that we need to get a free way. You need to get a free pass through everything. We also need to show our merit. We also need to show how competent we are. We also need to show how qualified, and we also need to show innovation. Let our innovation win awards. Let our innovation change the world. But whether it be it in medical, in physics, in transportation, whatever field it is, being a woman is not a free way to getting things for free because you're in the space, but it means that you need to show what women can do so that you can inspire that little child sitting in that village. I always say when I give talks that, I grew up in Nelspruit. People who know Nelspruit, they know it's very traditional and it's very rural. I used to walk to school. I didn't have shoes. But I knew that there's somewhere that I want to be, when I'm older. And I always go back to these communities. I always go back to teach digital literacy. I always go back to teach cybersecurity. And I always say, Zandile paved the way. A lot of people now are teaching women and kids how to code. But who's teaching women how to secure themselves online? Who's teaching women how to hack? Who's teaching women regulations and compliance? In as much as we have cybersecurity, we have AI, we have forensics, we have everything, but there's also the regulatory part of things, which is regulatory compliance, which is standards, framework, and acts. So we also need a force of women who are going to come to us and assist us as we build these innovations, as we build technologies. We also need a force that will come back to us and say, listen, this is how you secure your innovation. This is how you make sure that it's safe from threats. This is how you make sure that no one can hack it. But more than anything, this is how you protect yourself from an intellectual property perspective. So we need a community, because if you're going to build tech houses, you need different and various skills from everywhere. And another thing that my fellow colleague mentioned, Uzandile, was when she said that we need to start breaking the me syndrome. I did it first. I did this first. The cake is very big for all of us to eat. The more, the merrier. So, I mean, when you look at emerging technologies, we have so much coming up. AI is booming, and I saw that South Africa has an AI policy right now, which is still under review. Quantum physics says, mechatronics. These are the spaces that our kids need to be in that tech into. They need to start playing with technology. They need to start playing with code. They need to start playing, with Kali Linux, learning how to code. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't play with dolls, but let's start cultivating a future of entrepreneurship, a future of innovation in a very young age, so that the ladies that are going to come after us, they don't need to deal with the stereotypes that we keep on dealing with. Sometimes when I walk into a boardroom, they'll be like, oh, is she the one that built this, the you know, the this innovation? Is she the one that did this? Is she the one that built the system? So there will always be that question. There will always be those remarks about being a woman. And funny thing is, no one ever asked, our the gentleman that, oh, so you're a man in tech. How does that make you feel? So at some point, I feel like we need to start breaking away from attaching, my capabilities and my skill to my gender. So that is a very controversial statement, but I believe that we need to start, recognizing leadership. We need to start recognizing excellence. We need to start saying, Lillian, you're very excellent. Zandile, you're very excellent. And let's stop saying, as a woman in tech, you're very
As a woman,
excellent.
I believe
Yeah.
that. I wholeheartedly
Yeah.
stand behind you because I know what it's like to have that constantly attached to, like males don't have to deal with this. You don't walk into a room and ask, how do you feel being the only man in the room? Like he probably doesn't even care. You know what I mean? So
No, he
I
doesn't.
wholeheartedly stand behind you. And I believe that in the future, I really do want us to pivot into fields that we don't even have to worry about whether or not we're going to be accepted because we're females, but our skills will speak for themselves. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me on that side. I'm going to bring back Elizabeth, who has to pose a question for the next speaker. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. Thank you very much, Doreen. At this point, the question is to Zandile. Zandile, are you there? You have dedicated your career to empowering women in tech through Girl Code. In your leadership journey, what have been the key challenges? I know you briefly touched on them at the beginning, but what has been the key challenges in increasing women's representation and participation in tech, and how have you worked to overcome them?
Thanks for that. Before I actually get into that, I want to kind of talk a bit about or add on to what Doreen was talking about. People have asked me, like, what is the future for Go Code? Where do you see it going? And for me, I've always said that I want a future where Go Code doesn't exist. It doesn't need to exist. And it talks to exactly what Doreen is saying, where my capability is not being attached to me being a woman, right? We know men don't, nobody's like, oh, what is it like being a man in whatever space? Men can just exist and be whatever they want to be. And so that's what we want for girls to just exist and be what they want to be. But for us to get to that future, we have a lot of stereotypes that we need to break down. We have a lot of systematic issues that have been embedded in us that are actually in our DNA. So there's like a whole study on trauma and how it's passed down generations. And as women, we have trauma. We have trauma where we've been told for millennia that we are not capable, that we can't do certain things, that we're not intelligent, we shouldn't speak, we shouldn't do this and that. And so we exist now because we have to work at breaking that away and creating a new generation that no longer sees themselves as I'm a girl or a woman in tech, it's just I'm a person in tech. So yes, Doreen, I'm 100% with you there. I want a future where we no longer need a woman in tech, and I also want a future where we don't potentially need a man in tech or a boy code, because a lot of the times when we do these things and these forums that are about building women, the question becomes like, what about the boy child or the men? But yeah, before I go off on a tangent with my own sort of thoughts and question, I think just to answer the question around the challenges in the space, the biggest thing, and I think Tareen also touched on it earlier on, and also Lillian, is that right, we also have the burden of being the first in what we are doing, right? We don't have like family members or people we come home to that can say, oh, this is how I did it, this is what you can learn from. So essentially being a social entrepreneur, I don't have, my mom is in corporate, my dad actually is an entrepreneur, he's got a butchery and stuff, but I didn't have anyone that can sort of guide me and be like, this is what it's like. Or in the family situation where a lot of our counterparts perhaps have people that, as you grow up, you have these type of conversations. And for me, that's been one of the biggest challenges is that I have to learn on the go, right? I don't have the luxury of saying, oh, okay, I have people that I can tap into. But the most beautiful thing is that on my journey, I've then met people that are saying, listen, I've got the skill, I've got the know how, I've got the experience. Let me help you on your journey. And honestly, Go Code wouldn't be where it is now without those people stepping forward and saying, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to give you the acumen. I'm willing to give you the knowledge, the lessons learned, so that you don't have to repeat them. But for the most part, it's been challenging because we don't get taught entrepreneurship at school. You don't know how to manage finances. You don't know how to hire people, how to be an employer, because for a lot of us, being an employee was our pathway, and that's the schooling system. What it taught us. So that's kind of like my biggest challenge. It's like I'm learning on the go, and I'm going to make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, and just sort of finding the grace to say, this, nobody taught me this. I just have to figure it out. So I think that's like one of the biggest challenges I've had in my journey.
Thank you very much, Zandy. Sorry, just because of time, 2 minutes for each question. And just as a follow-up question on the question that you were answering, do you think there's any financial constraints, because we've established the fact that I mean, it's not manpower. Like, for instance, when a man and a woman are engineers, strength is required somewhere. So sometimes a man might be at advantage. But here we're coding, we're sitting. Are there any financial constraints? Because one thing about technology is it's advancing very fast. So you constantly have to, get advanced. Are there financial constraints?
No,
How does
100.
it affect women?
Yeah, so I think like what we've seen, and I'm just going to talk also from a point of view of being a young woman myself, and how we view finances. You always want to stretch it, right? You always want to give back to the community or to your family and all of that. And with technology, you have to keep up with the latest gadgets, the latest. There's just like a lot and certificates and all of that, and they all and most of the time require a lot of finances, which not everybody has access to. You also have to take into consideration what backgrounds you're coming from. So already before you even get started, there's just so many things that are stacked up against you. But you know what? As women, we're resilient. Like we find a way to make it work. We've seen it with our mothers, our grandmothers. They've made it work. They allowed us to go to school and all of these things. So yeah, I think that's a huge challenge. But we've always figured out how we make work with what we have.
Thank you very much. I love something that you said. You said as women we're resilient. And that's my takeaway from answering the question. Thank you very much, Zandy. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for that answer, Zandile. It really gives us a lot of. Question is posed to Lillian. If Lillian could come on the screen, just we can see eye to eye. There we go. All right. So my next question is posed to Lillian. Fun fact, reading this question now, I am actually realizing that 3 years ago, I was an intern at Microsoft, and I don't think we ever crossed paths. So now that we are, it's like 3 years later. But my question to you is, as a leader at Microsoft, you navigate both technical and strategic sides of the business. What has your biggest challenge been in this space? How did you position yourself to rise to leadership, especially in such a global tech company, and also on top of being a woman in all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Chelsea. Sure. So we work in an extremely exciting space, and I'm sure you experienced that in your internship period here. It is also cutthroat, but also high performing, right? So as a leader, there's an intricate dance between driving business outcomes hard and taking care of the people in order to drive sustainable performance and growth. And balancing these two is not always easy. Me personally, I'm an extreme empath. And so standing firm in my values and honoring my leadership style consistently, which tends to be quite different from many of my colleagues, which majority is male, So standing firm in these values and my style without compromising my impact and credibility as well has been very challenging. I'm often having to almost defend my stance and fight to be allowed and enabled to lead in a way that I believe is correct for me and for my team. So maintaining that is difficult. It's very easy to give up and just assimilate what everybody else is doing, which I try to avoid completely. Authenticity is one of my core values. For the second part of the question, how did I position myself to rise? Very early on in my career, I learned a very simple model that I have used throughout my career, and it has worked for me very well. And I share it with everybody that's willing to listen. And it has really helped me thrive and sustain my career. I simply call it the 3 C's, and I visualize it as a triangle, each corner of the triangle with a C. And these C's are: 1, credibility. And when I sit and I reflect and I review my work and everything that I do, I ask myself, what do I need to know to be really good at what I'm doing? What do I know already? What do I still need to learn? How do I go about learning that? And put a plan to make sure that I get the skilling and the capability that I need. The second C is about communication. Who are my stakeholders, internally, externally? Do I need to ensure that they consistently have awareness of the work that I am doing? Who am I getting feedback from? To ensure that I'm continuously improving on what I'm doing based on the feedback that I'm getting. And then the last C is consistency. So these 3 exist in a continuum, right? So without consistently building credibility, being consistent about how I communicate and creating level-setting expectations about who I am and how I show up consistently, the model kind of breaks, right? So you need to be very mindful about these 3 areas, and applying this in anything that you do has proven to me personally to really support in driving success in how I execute in my duties every day, but also how I manage my career development plan longer term. It has worked. It continues to work. I get feedback on it a lot. I adapt it according to whoever I'm talking to. As I said, very simple, but so practical and so helpful.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I might also try and incorporate those 3 C's into my life. Really helpful technique as well. And also thank you for breaking it down. Yeah, I think so. I'll pass on to Elizabeth to bring in the next part for us. Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Thank you very much, Chelsea. This question is going to Doreen. Doreen, are you there? So your question is: cybersecurity is a critical part of South Africa's digital future, yet women remain underrepresented in this field. As a leader in the space, what challenges have you faced in building your career? And what steps must be taken to ensure more women take up leadership roles in cybersecurity?
Okay, so I think you've asked me this question, but let me just reiterate again. I'm just going to say this again. For women to take up space within leadership roles in tech, we
Sorry,
need to have
let me just come in there. Can you hear me? Just so
yes,
this one specifically to cybersecurity. I know we
yeah.
asked you the question before, but it was generally, leadership role within the tech space. But now limiting it to cybersecurity.
Well, I believe that limiting it to cybersecurity won't actually do justice to how powerful your question is. So, so in my space as a cybersecurity, I don't want to say expert, but as a cybersecurity personnel, what I've noticed is that dealing with emerging technologies it is very difficult being in cybersecurity because the defense that you knew in 2015 today is not even relevant because we're dealing with new attacks and as much as we build these technologies to circumvent and to make sure that we do not get attacked and penetrated, our systems are always resilient and safe. hackers, especially the black ones, they don't sleep. What they have is, we call it a server of attack. So you drop one server down, 2 seconds later, there's another one up. So that's how they attack us. You kill one phishing link right now, 2 seconds later, you have another one. You always need to keep relevant. Because if you're not relevant, we always say that if ever you're a dinosaur employee, you've been there for a long while and you don't want to innovate, technology will come in and it will pass you. So some of the challenges that we are seeing within cybersecurity is that our colleagues don't want to be innovative. They don't want to study. They don't want further education. They don't want to learn more, and the thing is, they're going to blame AI. AI is taking our job. The challenge is us not wanting to innovate, not wanting to learn, and not wanting to embrace new technologies and new defense. So it happens that the stuff that you knew 2015 is really not relevant today. And it becomes a problem, within my space, because it's either your skills are redundant, or rather your skills are no longer viable, or your skills, they are no longer up to par with today's, technologies. So number two, the second challenge that I've noticed is that we have a huge problem of digital literacy. So you would be invited and called into a big boardroom where you have to address the board and tell them how they can beef up their cybersecurity posture within the environment. And most of the challenges is you having to tone it down, and make sure that they understand exactly what you're talking about. So I have noticed that, and this is what I'm gonna put out to you and Lillian and Zandile. I think you guys also need to give us, conferences or shows, or speaking, opportunities where we teach the ones that are coming after us how to communicate in boardrooms, how to communicate cybersecurity, how to communicate code, how to communicate software engineering. Because in as much as we want to help, in as much as we want to assist, that we do not have a lot of threats within the country, the way we communicate and the way we sell cybersecurity has to be diversified. And it has to hit. I always say that if you cannot tell me what's wrong with my firewall, like I'm 5 year old, that means you don't know what you're talking about. If I cannot reach the most digital illiterate person, it means I don't know what I'm doing. So there's this fashion amongst tech, professionals, especially women. We like to gatekeep, and these are one of the biggest challenges in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is broad. There's GRC, there's blue teaming, there's red teaming, there's defense, there's threat intelligence. You will find the most technical people, the most brilliant ladies in cybersecurity, they don't know how to articulate themselves. I was one of those ladies when I started. I couldn't articulate myself. The only thing I could do, I could show. So it took a woman like you to say, listen, this is how you communicate with the audience. This is how you talk to the boardroom. This is how you talk to the board of directors. This is how you handle yourself in media spaces. So that for me was one of the biggest challenges I encountered, about like 10 years ago when when I was really getting ahead in the space, how to communicate what you're doing. And a lot of women don't want to come forward and say, I have a problem when it comes to articulation. I don't know how to articulate myself in my specific field. What do I do? And I know that sometimes people will say, that is very shameful. You cannot talk about it. But in a nutshell, that's why we find most people who are very qualified within the space who can't get jobs because they don't know how to articulate themselves. So for me, that was one of the biggest challenges that I had. It was like I was mute. I could only break, things. I could only fix things. I could only bring the servers up back after a hack, but I just couldn't articulate myself. So that was one of the biggest challenges that I had to fight. And hey, look at where we are today. Right now, I'm actually speaking in conferences on a global stage because it took a woman to say, listen, this is how you carry yourself and this is how you articulate. So for
Thank
me,
you,
if
Doreen.
there's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
lady sitting there who's in tech, who's in cybersecurity, I want you to know that you can communicate. You can sell cybersecurity. You can get the next kid or lady or high school student in this field because it takes this mouth to get another person inspired. So for me, it was articulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doreen. Thank you. Because of time, it's really been a very interesting conversation, and we can go on and on. And I hear you when you say communication is really a very important part of leadership roles. And also, just to give some inputs, there are institutions that actually do programs, such as equipping women to sit in boards or take up leadership roles. So I think that is really some important ways in which those who cannot communicate properly can equip themselves. I know I had done something with Sadar. Sadar is in Cape Town, and they do programs that will equip you to sit on boards. So I think that's very important. Thank you very much. Before you leave, Doreen, I'm just going to go to the last question. And this question is posed to all of our speakers to wrap up tonight. What are your hopes for the future of diverse women in tech across different ages, career levels, and backgrounds in South Africa? And what can be done today to ensure a more inclusive and innovative industry for women? So we're starting with you, Doreen. 2 minutes, and that's it. You are mute.
Oh, sorry about that. My 2 minutes, I'm going to use it very, very, very importantly. The first thing I'm going to ask is, one of the challenges that we have as women in tech, especially when it comes to building innovation, is the fact that we do not have capacity. Number two, technology is expensive. We have institutions like AWS, like Microsoft, like Google. Can you please make your APIs free for us to use? Can you please avail, technologies? Right now, it's not like 20 years ago where we have to build everything from the ground up. We can actually integrate and work together. So I'm just going to ask that we do make tech enabled. Instead of us paying a lot of money for credits, can they please be made available? Number two, we have to diversify. We always need to be relevant. We need to study more. We need to take on emerging technologies, because the next thing we're going to be complaining that we're being wiped by a biological, called AI. So for me, my biggest, cry and my biggest ask right now is to make technology available, make all the enabling AIs free for us to use. That is my ask. I'm not going to say one more thing. I just want tech to be available. And all these API, all these codes, everything else must be made available and free for us to use and integrate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll leave it to Chelsea and Zandile.
Okay, well, let's say
Cool.
Chelsea. Go ahead, Chelsea.
I'll just pose like the last question to you as well. So what would your hopes be for the future of diverse women in tech across different ages, career levels, backgrounds in South Africa, and what can be done today to ensure more inclusive and innovative industry for women? I know you kind of answered this earlier where you said like your ideal future would be where girl code doesn't have to exist. But maybe for the sake of just answering right now, if you could just hop on what you see the future of diverse women in tech being, especially in South Africa's landscape.
Thank you for that, Chelsea. And yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing conversation. I think if we want a future where young girls can participate meaningfully, can innovate, we need to go back to the grassroots, right? Already we had AI, a lot of people don't even know how to use basic computer literacy. So we're leaving a lot of young people and young women behind. And that's because they don't have access to computers, they don't have access to internet, right? Infrastructure. So I think what can be done now is that we need to go back to the basics and make sure that everybody is brought along. For me, that's the most important thing. We have so many young people that haven't even like seen a computer. And that's a big problem. If as Africa, if as young people in Africa, we want to be ahead, we want to be the continent that innovates, because we're going to be the youngest continent, then I think we need to really relook at how we're doing these things and just not throw things. I think Doreen kind of touched on it. Like, a lot of organizations are like, oh, yeah, it's available, it's online, it's free, you can do it. Really? How am I going to do it? With what laptop? With what internet? With what electricity? Like, let's be serious. If we really want Africa to be an innovative continent, then we just need to go back to the basics and make sure that the people we want to empower have the resources and the access so that they can be empowered. Yeah, that's it for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I really love how you said we have to literally start going back to basics, because how are you expecting somebody to grasp what AI as a concept is when, one, they don't have a laptop or they're not even familiar with the term? So really important that we go back to basics. I definitely agree with you. Thank you so much, Sandile. And then finally, Lillian, I'll pose the same question to you. So I'll just ask it again so that you're able to answer as well. But the question was, what are your hopes for the future of diverse women in tech across different ages, career levels, and backgrounds in South Africa? And what can we do today to ensure a more inclusive and innovative industry for women?
Yeah, so my biggest hope, particularly for women coming in, is to sustain the careers in tech. We seem to have a drop off at some level as women face challenges in advancing their careers. So my biggest wish for and hope for younger women joining the industry is that they very quickly find their voices and have the courage to speak up for themselves. I see many young women missing the early window of opportunity to use their agency to advocate for their needs and intentionally drive their development and growth in the space. It's a fast-paced, hectic space to work in. People will not always volunteer themselves to you, but if you reach out, if you speak up for what you need and you reach out to people, more often than not, you will get the help and the support that you need. But I find a lot of people shying away from stepping into that space. So courage and bravery is really what I hope for younger people coming in, so that they establish themselves very quickly and stand out as people who are really intentional about growing themselves in the space. That's where opportunities tend to be directed to. So that's my biggest wish. And then on the flip side, we already have a really good number of people that are showing us that this is not only valid to dream to be successful in this space, but it's also achievable, right? How can we leverage those people more? And I totally get the point that Zandile shared earlier on as well about it's not everybody who's able to participate in that way. But for those who are, how do we step in and ensure that we unlock further opportunities in a scaled way to reach more and more people and provide access to these opportunities to be? We all have the keys. How do we use these keys to unlock and open doors for more people to come in an inclusive, supportive, and sustainable way going forward? Those are my hopes for the industry.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight, and thank you for sharing throughout the session. It's been really helpful to learn from trailblazers like yourself throughout the lesson, and hopefully to inspire the next generation of people after you. So thank you so much. I'm going to bring Elizabeth in with the closing remarks just to close us out for the conversation for today.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. Thank you very much, Lillian. I know we've received some fantastic questions, but because of time, I will see to read that the organizers find a way to email directly the answers to your questions to you. We would have to close now. It's been an inspiring conversation. Do we still have 5 minutes left maybe to take some questions? Okay, let me go with 2 questions. I think we have some questions in there. Okay, from Aliyah. What did you do during your gap year to get ahead? I'm not sure if this question was posed to directly to any of the speakers, but I would ask Doreen to share what she did in her gap year to get ahead. Doreen, are you there? Could
Yes,
you
I'm
please
here.
answer this question from the audience? What did you do in your gap year to get ahead?
I read a lot of books. I read a lot of tech books, a lot of self-help books, because everybody knows when you're home, it can just get to you. And I remember during that time, I built my first website using a BlackBerry phone, and I'm a self-taught developer as well. So being at home and having access to YouTube at that time really helped me and really helped and assisted me polish my skills. So one thing that most people don't know is before I studied digital forensics, I actually taught myself, how to use Kali Linux, how to use Ncase, how to use all these tools. So my gap year was actually an eye-opening year for me, because that's when I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And so books, tools, YouTube. YouTube is one of the biggest universities in the world. And I would really, really urge everyone to use it, because what's in there, it's a library of information. It's just a wealth of intelligence and academics. So I would really like to urge everyone to go in there. It helped me during my gap year. Thank you.
Very correct. I think every one of us uses YouTube, and there's also ChatGPT, I think, and everything is so. I mean,
And
it's
ChatGPT is now, ChatGPT is now.
okay.
Back then
Yes,
we had textbooks. So yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Doreen. Before you leave, there's one more question here from the audience for you. It reads, "I also struggle with communicating." Okay, I think we've talked about this one. Let me go to this next question. It says, please, how can we consistently innovate? It seems impossible with limited time as someone studying and working full-time job. How do I adapt every new tech? So
You know what?
studying, working full-time job, maybe having babies as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure Lillian and Zandile can attest that, South Africa is known as a gateway for consuming technology. Um, it's not often that we build technologies that go out globally. It's more of we are consuming these technologies. And how you innovate, for instance, look at what has been done with AI. They keep on giving us all these free protocols to use and to build on our AI. So what I'm saying, like I said before, that innovation, it's not like before that you need to sit down with the blueprints. What we innovate as we go. Look at what the medical, or what the medical tech industry is doing when it comes to innovation. We can also do that as well. So we just need to look at our current problems right now. Our One of the issues that we're facing is actually a poison AI defects, when it comes to AI threat intelligence. Now, how do you build a solution that will counter, AI defenses? Because people poison these AIs. Now, how do you build technologies that will help in stopping that? So you just take all the current issues that we have and you build solutions on top of that. Now, that is called working very smart, not hard. So we just have to innovate based on the issues that we're currently having right now. Thank you.
I love the way you put it. I love the way you put it because at the end of the day, with technology, we're trying to use technology to solve problems. So you should there is a problem, be a solution provider. Thank you very much, Doreen. The last question is for Lillian. Lillian, are you there? The question reads, um, the question reads, yes, you're right, Lillian. I studied with about 10 other ladies in my engineering undergrad degree, but none of them have a STEM career. At the end of the day, we need to see it through. I think it's rather a comment than
Yeah.
a question, but do you want to maybe shed some light on that?
She's absolutely correct. My thesis for my MBA was actually on women in tech, specifically in leadership in multinational companies, and I did quite a lot of or researched studying the trends all the way from primary school, girls taking up science in high school, entering universities in STEM, progressing to their careers, and then growing in their careers to leadership. And research proves that this is exactly the point. At some point, we have quite a deep drop-off rate of women just checking out of the industry and moving on to other things. There's a lot of systemic issues that are driving this behavior, but more often than not, it's environmental as well. So, we can change the tide of this. We've got a lot of people that have trained and skilled, but they are not applying, nor are they active in the industry. A very, very real point that Steph is raising.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Thank you very much for sharing that. At this point, it's been an inspiring conversation. Tonight, we've heard powerful insights on leadership, resilience, and innovation from some of South Africa's most influential women in tech. Their journeys reminds us that while challenges exist, the opportunities for women in tech are endless, and it's up to all of us to continue pushing for a more inclusive industry. A huge thank you to our speakers, Lillian, Zandi, and Doreen, for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. Your contributions to the tech industry are truly transformative. Chelsea, are you there for some vote of thanks?
Yes, I'm here. So thank you so much to the community partners, Girl Code and Girl Hype. Thank you for the sponsors of today, Edge Innovate Tech Convergence and LexTech's ecosystem.
A special thanks as well to Young Women Code for hosting this important conversation and for your ongoing work in empowering women in tech. And of course, thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. Your engagement, questions, and energy made this discussion even more impactful.
Also, as a final reminder, don't forget to follow Young Women Code on all social platforms for any updates and future events. Also, make sure to visit the website for any additional resources. If you still have any inquiries, please reach out to the team via email. And don't forget to share any key takeaways from the event on social media using the hashtags that were posted earlier. Thank you so much for everybody, and thank you for joining today.
Let's keep the conversations going. Follow Young Women Code for more initiatives and that empower and uplift women in technology. And remember, whether you're just starting in tech or already leading, your voice, your skills, and your ideas matter. The future of tech is diverse, and together we are shaping it. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye.